Eric Scopel from 247 Sports.
Got it.
What's been the biggest, I guess, growth point for CJ going into this year? You've been around for a couple of years. And kind of, when you see him, you feel like you could utilize him a little differently this year, or kind of just what's your viewpoint on CJ in particular?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's just, he's kind of taking his game to, the next level, year 3. And the big thing with him was how he kind of changed his body in the off season as far as nutrition, taking care of himself a little bit better, understands the long-term goal. So, he's as dynamic as they come, and we expect a lot out of him this year. And he's a unique individual, and he's to me, he's the best back in this league, if not in the country. So,
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
Hey, Coach. Just was curious what your evaluation of after 1 year in the program is of Sean Dollars, and then same thing about Trey Benson and how they both factor into the running back rotation.
Yeah, well, Sean's came light years. Obviously, every freshman comes in thinking they're going to dominate the college football world, and I think it was a rude awakening for him early. But I'll tell you what, he's taking his game to a new level. He's everything we thought he was. He's just got his kind of matured his body a little bit and taking care of his body. Understands, very, very intelligent kid. We ask our running backs to be very smart in this offense. They have to know a lot, and he's as smart as they come. So. Very happy with his progression, and I think you'll see a lot of Sean this year.
James Capilla, the Oregonian.
Following up on CJ, Jim, what does a massive step in development that Mario mentioned, you mentioned he's also progressed, obviously, look like and entail beyond nutrition? I mean, he's your best pass blocker. He's probably the best pass blocking running back in the league already, and he takes pride in that already. But what does that massive step in development look like for a guy who's run for 1,000 yards back-to-back years and is as good a pass blocker as he is and pass catcher as he is?
Yeah, I think it's just a consistency all the time. I think in the past we kind of at times took him for granted. 9-man box, it's all right. CG will run somebody, he'll run somebody over. He'll make that guy, to the point now where it's going to be able to get him in space a little bit more, to where he's very dynamic, and as you know, he's as fast as they come. So I think just the offense will help him this year, and also just his mentality of he has a goal and he's very driven, and I think he's a team player, and he has goals he wants to achieve personally, but he also has goals he wants to achieve as a team, and he's been 100% in on this whole thing, and I respect the heck out of him.
Ryan Thorburn, registered guard.
Jim, with all that experience you've talked about, and now with Coach Moorhead coming in to run his offense, how much different is what you do in the running game going to be this year compared to last year?
Run game wise, not a lot different. It'll be the same. There'll be a little bit more variance to it, but the run games is a lot. It's similar to what we did in the past. There's a few tweaks to it and things that'll get our guys in space a little bit more, but it'll be generally the same, but with some variations of it that will get our guys in space a little bit more than we did in the past.
AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, last year Cyrus was used a lot in the red zone, and he wanted, and you mentioned last year that you wanted to expand his game to be used more than that. How has that progressed, and how has he expanded his game, that away?
Yeah, a lot. Cyrus has earned the right to be an every down back. He's taken his body and his game to a whole new level this year. The off season, during the down times and the lockdown, he took his body and he took the time and he got himself better in every aspect: nutrition, speed, strength, flexibility, all those things that after the end of last season we told him he had to improve on, he did. And Cyrus is the leader of our group. He's like the father figure in our room, and he's taken those young guys under his wing, and he's done an unbelievable job. So, Cyrus has earned the right to be an every down back, not just a short yardage goal line back.
Back to James from the Oregonian.
Jim, I realize if you had the answer to this question, you would have done it already. But what is going to be the key to keeping CJ upright? Tough as he is, and he's never missed a start. But obviously he's missed a lot of time the last 2 years for one reason or another and played through a lot of it. But what is going to be the key this year to making sure he gets through games? Because when he does, as you mentioned, he's statistically speaking, he was not that far behind a Chuba Hubbard or J.K. Dobbins last year in certain splits.
Absolutely. Part of that was our doing. I think in games we realized we had in hand. CJ never wants to come out, and even the games where he got dinged a little bit, he wanted to go back. But we have the luxury of having great depth behind him. But to answer your question, he just got to be an every down back. He's got to get that in his mind that it's not going to be 2-3 plays and then a rest. If we get you in a series, we want you to go and go and go and go. And he's taken into that role, and he understands what we're looking for. And I think that's going to be the key to him having a huge year.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
You helped kind of develop the pistol offense at Nevada, and Oregon implemented it the last couple of years. Is that something we're going to see much of or any of under Coach Moorhead? Or is that kind of, I don't know, what's the update with that?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of it. It's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's kind of to us, it's the great equalizer in the run game. We don't kind of give the answers to the test, and you'll see it. As much as Coach Moorhead wants to call it. I know he had never done it before until he got here, and I know he really, really likes it. So we'll just let him play with it as he sees fit.
And Thorburn, register guard.
Jim, you've talked about a whole list of guys in your room that, have experience and talent. So I know you're all set there, but is there any temptation at all to use Noah Sewell at any point, given that no one in high school was able to or wanted to tackle him?
Yeah, that's the head coach's call. He obviously he's a big physical, athletic kid, and but between Travis and Cyrus and Sean and CJ and Trey Benson, Cross Patton has had a really good fall camp. For a walk-on, you can't ask for more than he's been doing for right now. KJ Maduki, Javon Wilson, those kids have just done a heck of a job. So we have a lot of depth and a lot of people we can use, but if Coach sees fit, I would take Noah in an absolute second.
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
With Trey Benson, what's it like bringing a player along this offseason? Because it was pretty unusual offseason. And then just how has he looked through the first few weeks?
Yeah, Trey Benson's really good. He's really good. He's exactly what we thought he was. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. He picked up the option. Everything was done basically via Zoom, trying to get him ready, and he picked it up as fast as any freshman ever has. Smart kid. His upside is huge. He's got the true freshman mistakes and the freshman growing pains, but he's 215 pounds that can lower the boom on you and take it the distance. He's what we were looking for in that recruiting class, and we absolutely hit a home run with that one.
Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Yeah, Coach, kind of like the Noel Sewell question, but a lot of spread teams around the country still will go under center, sometimes use a fullback. We haven't seen a fullback at Oregon for, 15, 20 years. Without giving too much away, is that something that's an alternative? But
yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. There'll be some variances in our offense this year that you can see stuff like that. So it's definitely a possibility, yes.
AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, knowing a lot of the guys in your roster and looking at it, you have a lot of guys that can play Pac-12 quality football. How many guys would you ideally like to rotate through on a game basis this year?
Yeah, you want to have 2.5 ready for every game. That's kind of my thought process going into it. Again, in my opinion, we have 4 to 5 guys that can start on almost every team in this league. Those guys are that good. So competition is amazing, but you want to have 2.5 ready, so that's kind of what your goal is. But if we can win with 4, we'll play with 4. If we can win with 1, we're going to win with 1. So the hot hand's always going to play, and we'll kind of use that philosophy moving forward. But there's not a huge drop off between 1 and 5, so it is what it is. So it's a good problem to have.
James at the Oregonian.
Jim, going off that fullback bit actually for a second, you guys used a little bit of 20 and 21 last year. I know that Joe's offense employs the H a bit more in the traditional sense. So is there just more 20, 21, 22 options, especially with somebody like Javon, who is just a bigger guy?
Yeah, those options. Yeah, definitely in play. We have, this offense can be a lot of different things, and it just depends on what helps us that week, what personnel groupings help us that week win the game. And so we have the possibility of doing anything we want, but it just depends what's big that week. If it's a 20 week, it's a 20 week, but we'd like to get 2 backs on the field when we can, obviously.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
You've spoken really highly of a lot of different guys, and you mentioned you have 4 or 5 guys capable of being starters in this conference. I guess I wonder, and I know you said to play the hot hand, but is there a level of it's going to be a challenge to figure out how there's only one football and only 1 or 2 of them can be on the field at once? I mean, kind of what's the balance of kind of that communication and how do you kind of ensure everybody, I guess, remains happy, quote unquote?
Yeah, very honest with them up front. I mean, they understand where I'm coming from. It is what it is. It's a business part of it now. I love those kids to death, but, if you can't hang on to the football, if you can't protect the quarterback, your day's going to end in a hurry. And they know that. So they take pride in that, and they understand that if you're hot, you're going to go. And like, for example, our Washington game last year, Cyrus was the hot hand, so he went. Travis became a hot hand, so he went. And so that's just kind of how it's going to be. Hot hand's got to play. So,
Ashley Young, NBC Sports Northwest.
Coach, what's your coaching relationship like with Joe Moorhead on and off the field?
That's great. I never met Joe before until he got here, but he's a ball coach now. He's just like us, man. He eats, drinks, and sleeps football. And I love his offense. I love what he does. It's been fun. He always wanted to run the pistol and didn't really know about it. So now that we've had these months together, he's like, man, I love this. I wish I would have known about this before. And so it's been fun. I like Joe a lot. He's a good man, good recruiter, good coach. This is a great staff we have here, man. It's just a bunch of great dudes. And it's fun to work with these guys every day.
James, the Oregonian.
You mentioned CJ's goals, Jim. He mentioned, aiming for 1,000 again, even though it's going to be at most an 8 or 9 game season. If it's 9, I mean, you guys are playing for a national title, so I don't think there's any complaints. But what are those goals beyond the tangible and the statistical? Because is it striking the chord that last year the Pac-12 backs, the highest was Moss at the end of the 3rd, and Eno goes in the 7th round, and Josh Kelly in the 4th? Is it improving and saying, hey, those guys, some of them ran for more than you, and they didn't get drafted that high? Is it really kind of striking the point that he's got to improve, even with the numbers as good as they were, that there are areas that he can improve his game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad that he has a goal of 1,000 yards because that would mean he had a heck of a year in 7, 8, 9 games. But CJ's skill set is unique. It's different than kind of I've ever seen before. He does things that are just, I want to say, freakish. And, people don't really appreciate it unless you're a coach and you see it the way we see it. But CJ Verdell, I've been at 31 years now, never had somebody like him. That's as freakish as he is. That's as dynamic as he is. People don't realize how good of hands he has out of the backfield. He's a great player, and those guys behind him are great players. But CJ's unique. I think he's going to have a huge year for us.
Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Coach, kind of a freakish question here. With your pattern of speech, the visor you're wearing today, have you ever been compared to Chip Kelly? Have you ever like Chip Kelly and kind of
numerous times
have that appearance?
Numerous times, yes. Sorry, I didn't. Yes, been told that probably 10 times in my career.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
I guess just following up on the comments of the freakish stuff you've seen CJ do, can you give some examples of what that kind of looks like?
Yeah, I mean, just things he could do in the hole, the way he could stop and start, the way he can see things that we have no idea how he sees, the way he gets from 0 to 100 in one step, the way he can stop and start, those things are just – I've just never seen that before. Usually kids are good at one or the other, but he can do all those things just very well. Last year, one thing we did with CJ was try to make him at the 3rd level, make people miss more than just try to run everybody over. And so last year he got a lot better of, kind of shaking safeties in the hole and things like that, but he can do it all. And when he goes, he goes. So he's fun to watch. You watch him in practice, you wouldn't know the difference between a practice and a game. That's how hard he practices every single play. It's impressive to watch.
2 more questions. Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
I know you can't talk about specifics, but in general, recruiting during the past 6, 7 months, what's that been like for you, and what's it been like working with the staff without visits, evaluation periods, and all that? Yeah,
it's been the Zoom world, but if you're going to work for Mario Cristobal, you better find a way. And it's been fun. I mean, it's been unique. It's been different. But I'll tell you what, we were all hands on deck and probably recruited harder during this period because you had more time. You were able to get a hold of parents. You were able to get people on a screen, and it was all hands on deck, and off we went. So it was actually fun. It was neat to do virtual tours and all those things that you do, and build relationships. And part of it was better because you got to visit with parents a lot more, through a Zoom call instead of trying to get them on a FaceTime, or you go on a visit and they're not home. So that part was nice. And it's all hands on deck and full speed ahead in recruiting, and it's never going to change.
Final question goes to James from the Oregonian.
Jim, on Cyrus, he's got a pretty unique family background, really young parents, and he's talked about his dad's kind of life journey and difficulties there, and obviously now in a very different line of work than probably a path he was destined for. Mm-hmm. Can you just speak to, in a lot of ways, there are a lot of things that socioeconomically Cyrus probably shouldn't be like a great success story. A lot of things that were probably stacked against him. And yet he is and carries himself as such, and that family is as well. If you could just kind of speak to define the odds a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about Cyrus is his mom and his dad are the greatest people you can ever meet. Great people. His mom is, you all know his mom. She's one of my favorites. And I think Cyrus has always been goal driven, and Cyrus always wanted to be a leader. And I think he wasn't going to be a statistic. He was going to be different. And his parents raised him right. His mom raised him right. He's got great family values. He's got a great support system. And me and Cyrus go back a ways. And it doesn't surprise me that he's had success in his life, and he will have success no matter what, whether it's football in the NFL or whatever it is. Cyrus is going to succeed. And, I think it's a great story. He's a great human being.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.